Pull up a chair, folks. Let's let the coffee cool down a bit and talk about something serious. Last time, we talked about nuclear anxiety and telephones. Today, I want to talk about something heavier, literally. If you go into a modern kitchen today, you'll see a lot of shiny things. Stainless steel that gleams like a new dime, non-stick pans so slick an egg will practically jump out of them if you look at it wrong, gadgets that plug in and promise to do all the work for you. They're nice, they're convenient, and 10 years from now, most of them will be in a landfill. But if you dig around in the bottom cabinet, maybe way in the back past the forgotten waffle iron, you might find something else. It's black as a moonless midnight. It weighs as much as a cinder block. It doesn't shine. It absorbs light. It looks rough, maybe a little intimidating. I'm talking, of course, about the cast iron skillet. To some people, it's just an old frying pan. Maybe one you inherited from your grandmother and were too scared to ever actually use. But to those of us who know, that heavy piece of metal isn't just cookware. It's a time capsule. It's a witness. It's the anchor that keeps an American kitchen from drifting away in the tide of the new and improved. Today, we're going to discuss the care and feeding of this beast. We're going to talk about why washing it with soap is a betrayal of your ancestors. And we're going to explore how the deepest secrets of a family don't end up in a diary. They get burned right into the iron. There's a reason cast iron holds such a specific place in the American imagination. This country was built on movement, on pushing boundaries, and often on making do with very little. When pioneers loaded up wagons to head west, they couldn't pack delicate china. They needed things that could fall off the back of a mule and survive. They needed things that could cook over an open prairie fire just as well as on a wood stove in a sod house. Cast iron was the answer. It was relatively cheap, impossibly durable, and versatile. It was a Dutch oven for stew, a flat top for flapjacks, a weapon against a rattlesnake if you were quick enough. During the Great Depression, when folks didn't have 2 nickels to rub together, that skillet was still there. It didn't chip, it didn't warp, and it didn't ask for anything other than a little grease and some heat. It became a symbol of survival. When you pick up a vintage skillet, maybe an old Griswold or a Wagner Ware, if you're lucky enough to find one at a garage sale, you feel that history in the heft of it. You aren't just holding iron forged in a foundry in Erie, Pennsylvania 80 years ago. You are holding every meal cooked in it since then. You are holding the weight of the hands that lifted it before yours. That's a responsibility you don't get with a Teflon pan you bought at Target last Tuesday. Now, let's get to the magic part, the secrets. If you buy a new cast iron skillet today, it comes looking a sort of gray and rough like sandpaper. It has no soul yet. The soul has to be earned. That soul is what we call seasoning. Scientists, bless their hearts, they try to take the romance out of everything, will tell you that seasoning is just polymerized fat. They'll say that when you heat oil past its smoke point in the presence of iron, the fatty acids break down and bond to the metal, creating a plastic-like non-stick coating. That's technically true, but it's boring. Here's the real truth. Seasoning is memory made solid. Every time you cook bacon in that skillet, a little bit of that smoky essence renders out and becomes part of the pan. Every time you fry chicken for a Sunday afternoon picnic, that golden, crispy history gets locked into the pores of the iron. The skillet remembers the cornbread baked for a Thanksgiving where everyone actually got along. It remembers the sausages sizzled up on a camping trip when it rained for 3 days straight. A well-seasoned skillet isn't just non-stick. It has a patina, a deep, glossy black finish that looks almost wet even when it's dry. That patina is decades of breakfasts, dinners, and suppers layered one over the other like sediments of rock. It's the culinary DNA of a family. When my grandmother cooked her fried potatoes, they tasted a certain way not just because of her recipe, but because of her skillet. That pan had absorbed 50 years of her cooking. It added a flavor profile that you couldn't write down on an index card. It was the secret ingredient that she couldn't leave to anyone in her will, but she could leave the pan. That's why, when a family matriarch passes on, there's often a quiet, intense negotiation over who gets the big skillet. They aren't fighting over scrap metal. They're fighting over who gets to keep the family's culinary memories alive. This brings us to the most controversial, the most argued about, the most sacred rule of cast iron ownership. The rule that, if broken, is enough to make an old-timer clutch their chest. Thou shalt never, ever let soap touch that skillet. Now, listen close. I know what you're going to say. You've read articles on the internet. You've seen the YouTube chefs. They'll tell you with a smug look, actually, modern dish soap is mild. It won't hurt the seasoning. The old lye soaps were the problem, but Dawn is fine. Technically, scientifically, they might be right. A little bit of mild detergent probably won't strip a hard-earned patina in one washing, but being right isn't the point. It's about respect. Taking a soapy sponge to a 70-year-old skillet that your grandfather used to fry catfish is an act of cultural vandalism. It's like taking Windex to a Rembrandt. Why were the old folks so adamant about no soap? Because they understood that the seasoning was precious. It took time to build. It was a living thing that needed to be nurtured, not sterilized. Soap is designed to cut grease. Seasoning is grease that has ascended to a higher plane of existence. When you scrub that skillet with soap, you aren't just cleaning it. You are washing away the memory of last week's pork chops. You are stripping back layers of hard-won history. You are telling that skillet that its contribution didn't matter. So, how do you clean it? The way folks have been doing it since before running water. You finish cooking. While the pan is still hot, and I mean hot enough to make you pay attention, you take it to the sink. You run hot water into it. It will hiss and spit at you like an angry cat. That steam is doing the work. You take a stiff brush or maybe a chainmail scrubber if things are really stuck on, and you knock the food loose. If something is really stubborn, you don't reach for the soap bottle. You reach for the salt box. Dump a handful of coarse kosher salt in there and scrub it with a paper towel held in tongs. The salt acts as an abrasive, scouring away the burnt bits without harming the sacred black coating beneath. Then you rinse it. You dry it immediately with a towel. Never let it air dry or rust. The arch-enemy of iron will creep in. Then you put it back on the stove over low heat to make sure every molecule of water is gone. And finally, the benediction. You take a little dab of Crisco or bacon grease on a paper towel, and you rub it all over the inside while it's warm. Just a thin sheen. You're feeding it. You're telling it, "Good job today. Rest up. We've got work to do tomorrow." It sounds like a lot of work, doesn't it? It's certainly harder than throwing a non-stick pan in the dishwasher and forgetting about it. But that's the point. The things that matter usually take a little work. A cast iron skillet demands a relationship. You have to learn its hot spots. You have to learn how patiently it heats up and how stubbornly it holds on to that heat. You have to learn to trust it. In return, it gives you something rare in this disposable world. It gives you permanence. I look at my own skillet hanging on the wall. It's older than I am. If I do my job right, if I keep the soap away from it and keep feeding it grease and heat, it will be here long after I'm gone. Someone else will stand over the stove, perhaps 50 years from now, frying up breakfast. They'll feel the weight of it in their hand. They'll taste something deep and rich in their food that they can't quite identify. They won't know my name. They won't know about the time I burned the onions or the time I made the perfect batch of cornbread on a snowy Tuesday, but the skillet will know. The secret is safe in the iron. So go ahead. Dig that heavy black pan out of the back of your cabinet. Knock the dust off it. Heat it up, fry some bacon in it, and start adding your own layer to the story. Just keep the dish soap far, far away. We'll talk again soon, folks. Until then, keep it seasoned and keep it real.